Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in, and if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and today I'm stoked to talk about a knife that I've wanted to check out for years. Released back in 2015 was the Heretic Hydra, and nearly a decade later, here we are with the Gen 3. There's been 3 different generations, and this one is the most recent. Huge shout out to my friends over at Blade Runner HQ for loaning this to me so that I could finally have a chance to check one out. And here it is. When you open the box, you're greeted by some OTF lube as well as the knife. Quick thing about this knife. On the packaging, it says your Hydra OTF is equipped with a button safety. However, improper use may result in injury. Be your own safety, guys. Single action out the front automatic knives can be dangerous if you are not being careful. And I say that because I've seen stories, I've heard stories of people who have injured themselves with this, just messing around, not paying attention, and not being careful. At the end of the day, you are your own safety. If you want one of these will be linked in the description down below. It won't be an affiliate link, but I will let you know where you can check one out if you decide to pick one up. Oh, man, that fires with authority. It's got some kick. This is the Gen 3, and there's a couple new things with the Gen 3. I did some research beforehand because I wanted to know exactly what the differences were. Now, apparently, on the previous versions, they had some like claw marks, some grooves that were supposed to help with ergonomics. People apparently didn't like that. Something else people didn't like that they went ahead and updated was this pocket clip. It used to be kind of an H-frame stamped steel pocket clip. Now it's a 3D milled and machined pocket clip. It's not deep carry. You'll have about this much sticking out of your pocket. But, you know, honestly, in my opinion, that's totally fine because you want to have a little bit sticking out, especially on a knife like this, so you have something to grab onto, because this lanyard is actually for the charging handle. So you don't necessarily want to grab that just to pull it out, although technically you could. Another change that they've made is the blade to handle ratio. Whether they made the blade a little bit longer or the handle a little bit shorter, I'm not entirely sure. But on the outside, I can tell you that for me, it looks pretty good as far as blade to handle ratio is concerned. Now, operation is pretty simple. As you can see, we have this titanium button cover right here. That is very important because unlike on something like a microtech, ultratech, that takes some force to flip this switch out to deploy, that's not the case with a single action out the front. This button, you press this button, it's coming out. And if it hits something, it is going to have more outward force than something like a double action OTF, where if you hit something with this when you go to deploy it, it's going to run off the track. And you know what, you might poke something, but it's not going to, you know, be coming out with as much force. And once it gets off the track, it's really not going to keep going. The difference is with the single action auto, while the blade is not going to be Hollywood-esque, it's not going to be going through people, going through bad guys on deployment, it's going to have more puncturing power. And so the stories are out there of people who have been foolish and have opened these into their hands just to see. And you know what? I'm not a fan of stitches, so I appreciate the safety. It's also very common that single action autos don't have pocket clips, and this one does. And that makes it very carry friendly indeed. And Heretic Knives is TJ Marfione, or Tony Marfione Jr., son of the famous Anthony Marfione, who owns and runs Microtech. Now, Microtech has an extremely storied history when it comes to out the front automatic knives, and the ultratech is a household name. You know, you can't talk about an OTF knife without mentioning a Microtech ultratech. And so the bloodlines are there. The lineage for great OTF knives is there. Now, something that I'm very pleased with is the lockup and lockout. That is extremely solid. Normally when I talk about OTF knives, I usually have to throw in a little asterisk and say, well, you know, you're going to have a little bit of blade play. That's to be expected. So when I first opened this and I checked that, like, there's no perceptible blade play there. That's super impressive. I'm shocked. I expected there to be something. Now, since I've never checked out a microtech Halo, I don't have anything like that to compare it against, but that's way better than what I expected. I expected there to be some wiggle, some jiggle. It's not there. That is solid. Very cool. Now, this is the Recurve blade shape. They do have the drop point and the tanto, so if you're not a fan of this Recurve, you can get it in drop point or tanto, and I think that you'll be just fine. I'm also really liking the thickness of this bevel. When I say the thickness, I mean it's not a typical factory bevel, which is just tiny and super robust and doesn't slice anything. Like that's a nice, wide, laid back bevel, which is going to be great for slicing. The Recurve, in my opinion, is a really cool blade shape because it gives you some belly and then it reverses the belly. And on that reverse, that's going to do a great job of pulling materials into your cutting edge. I think that's fantastic. The ergos on here are great, and I shouldn't be surprised because anytime you have a handle that's been designed with ergonomics in mind, it's going to look a little bit weird. And that aesthetic might be difficult for many people to get over, but once you hold this in your hand, you're not going to be disappointed at all because it puts your thumb right here behind the spine of the blade, which gives excellent leverage. And if you want a more graduated grip, you can move your thumb up here closer to the tip of the blade and you have perfect control either way. Balance is nice. In a reverse defensive style grip, I guess you could say. In an ice pick grip, it feels good, it feels natural, it feels comfortable. And if you're wondering just how big this is, a good comparison is going to be the microtech ultratech. The ultratech is a full-size knife, and the Hydra is going to be a little bit bigger. Overall, we're looking at 9.1 inches or just over 9 inches. It weighs 5.3 ounces. That's not a light knife by any stretch, but considering that it's a 9-inch knife and it's an automatic OTF, I'm not necessarily terribly surprised. There's no wiggles or jiggles. I don't feel or hear any springs moving around, no moving parts that shouldn't be moving. That's great. The blade materials have also been updated. We're now in the realm of CPM MagnaCut instead of something like LMAX or 20CV or M390. I love seeing MagnaCut on this because MagnaCut has far superior corrosion resistance and toughness, and that will definitely help, especially on a blade like this, which is going to be firing out with some force. Now, this anode job is in fact going to be new. This is a recent release within the last couple months. This is their red camo, and they also released one called Heretic Camo, which instead of red is green. I think that looks pretty sweet. If you're wondering about operation on here is simple. You just pull back this titanium milled safety cover, press the button, and then pull the charging handle. And when you pull the charging handle back, it kind of reminds me of charging a shotgun. I'm still getting used to that. That's pretty cool. It's very fidgety in its own right, aside from just firing the blade, which comes out with gusto. Bam. Man, I like that. Here's the terrible part, guys. Now that I've tried one, I really want one. I would love to have one of these. And if you're wondering how much they cost, it kind of depends on what variant you get of the new model. But typically speaking, they're going to run anywhere in the low 400s to most of the time the low to mid 500s. If you want something that's truly limited, they do have limited runs with certain motifs, and you can get those for sometimes in the realm of $600 or $700. But I would be a-okay with one like this. This is nice. I really enjoy the fact that you could tell that 3 generations later, they've listened to the community and they said, you know what? This is what the people want. Give the people what they want. For those of you who hate the proprietary screws, check this out. No proprietary screws here, neither on the pocket clip or on the body. Everything is really nicely done. Heretic is doing an absolutely phenomenal job proving once and for all why they are in fact one of the top premier American-made automatic switchblade companies out there. And they don't do just switchblades. They do a lot of different knives. They have some manual folders. They've got customs. They're doing good things, and I'm not surprised at all to see them continue to rise in popularity. Expect to see more from Heretic. they're not going anywhere. They're going to be around, and I for one am excited, especially given everything that I've seen on this design. But now you got to let me know, what are your thoughts on single action automatics? What about the Heretic Hydra? Do you like the new blade shape? Have you been wanting to pick one of these up? If not, why not? Let me know in the comments section down below. And by the way, guys, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, make sure to click on one of the videos that pops up next.